so madam, you can start.
Okay. Hello and good evening, and welcome to the webinar organized by Chemical Engineering Department, Parul Institute of Engineering and Technology Diploma Studies, Parul University. Today's webinar is on the scale-up and technology transfer and overview. We have among us a renowned expert, Dr. Harish Shukla. He is a freelance consultant and advisor in pharma, agrochemicals, specialty chemicals, core competency, product process development, strategic management, and growth partner business development. Sir has more than 37 years of experience in the field of industry and has worked in the leading pharma companies like Cadila, Sun Pharma, Alembic, Matrix, for initial 20 years and another 17 years with the Deepak Nitrate, Solaris, Thapar Group Bromine business, then Nagarjuna Agrichem, Enoria Chem, and Transpec Silox. He has been indulged in developing products, intermediates for MNC customers or domestic players from conceptual to commercialization like CIBA, Syngenta, Dow, GE, Garware. And with this brief, he also had worked as technical advisor and consultant for effectively utilization of his expertise and knowledge at the place with mutually agreed scope of work with his skills, which includes lead search lab scale experience, process development, cost reduction, troubleshooting, scale up, technology transfer, custom synthesis, toll manufacturing, setting up of lab, and many more. Sir has also an experience and exposure to handle bromine and value-added derivatives during during his tenure at Solaris Chemtech Avantha Group, and he was the leading head R&D for 4 years. He had also experienced greenfield project of setting up R&D center, PowerPoint presentation on his technical and business skills. So, on behalf of Parul University and Chemical Engineering Department, PIETDS, we welcome you, sir. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Prabha.
Okay, so now we'll be moving ahead. I'm forwarding this session to Shri Dr. Harish Shukla, sir, to go ahead with the session. Sir. Present now.
Are you able to see? Are you
now, sir?
Now?
Not yet. Sir, present now कीजिए.
Okay. Are you able to see the screen?
Not yet. उसको screen को share कीजिए आप.
Okay.
Yes, it is coming. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir, we can see.
Okay.
So now you can start the session. आप उसको presentable mode में ले जा सकते हैं slide show में.
Okay.
सर चला गया. हाँ, अभी ठीक है. स्लाइड शो में जाके फ्रॉम द बिगिनिंग कर दीजिए सर।
सर ये ब्राउजर मिनिमाइज कर दीजिए आप।
आपका वीडियो वाला
फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल
हाँ
कर दिया है।
हाँ, अभी प्रेजेंटेशन स्टार्ट कीजिए। यस, स्लाइड शो में कर दीजिए सर।
ओके,
यस सर।
ओके। Good afternoon, Dr. Prabha, for this wonderful introduction, and good afternoon, the team members, Brijesh, and all faculty members, senior members, and fellow friends. Myself, Dr. Harish, as Dr. Prabha has given the introduction, I'm not going to go much details, but myself, Dr. Harish, stays in Baroda with doctorate organic chemistry, anti-tubercular drug potential from Bhavnagar. And as mentioned, I have almost 37 years of experience in pharma, agro, specialty, agrochemicals, all sorts of bromine business. We have handled during last 37 years, and my core skill includes the synthesis, the process development, technology transfer, the business development. Over a period, I have acquired such skill, and presently I am working as a freelance technology advisor. Today, I have an opportunity to deliver some talk within the technical group on the overview of scale up and technology transfer. During this 1 hour time, we'll try to take you through the presentation, whatever I have compiled. And to maintain the continuity, I request you all to collect your questions. So at the end, we will be taking up one by one as time permits through Prabha. Okay, so shall we start? See, we'll start with the definition. The scale up is generally defined as a process of increasing batch size. That means what? In lab scale, we will have a gram scale processes and the development. So scale up is to take on a further scale. In process scale up, the formula is transferred into a viable, robust product by the development of reliable, practical method of manufacturing. So we will have to have a laboratory process as a base, and from that onwards, we can take the further scale. The goal of scale up is to identify and develop a process that will successfully produce a desired product when manufactured on the commercial scale. In this session, we are going to focus on the things that should be done and what should be avoided to prevent the costly errors during the development and the process development. Next is scale up and pilot plant. Pilot plant, it is a part of pharmaceutical industry whereby a lab scale formula is transferred in a viable process for the development with the product to be manufactured on the higher scale. And what is the scale up? The art of designing prototype of data obtained by the plant. Because if you have a laboratory scale data, you cannot directly go to the plant because there will be n number of changes will be coming. We will be taking you through the points. What are the important factor during the scale up? But laboratory scale data, there will be quite a few things will be involved, like stirrer design and the heat transfer, the kind of vessels which we are using. So there will be a different impact when you change some of the data. So when you go from a laboratory scale to scale up, there will be quite a few data, and that is why scale up and technology transfer is very, very important for the manufacturing scale. And plant is what? It is a place whereby 5M, like money, material, man, method, and machine, they are brought together at one roof. And then for the manufacturing of the product. That we will be seeing through the next. Scale up and steps involved in the scale up. Definition is like act of result oriented from the laboratory studies for the designing of prototype and pilot processes. Construction of pilot plant using this pilot plant data, a higher scale plant will have to be constructed and executed. Define the product economics based on the projected market size. Otherwise, there will be no point in going for scale up because there should be some commercial sense making for the company. Conduct laboratory studies, scale up planning at the similar time. Define the key rate controlling. Like sometimes the temperature will be the rate controlling factor. Sometimes timing of addition will be the rate control factor. So we'll have to identify those steps. What are the important factors during the scale up? Conduct preliminary larger scale trials than the laboratory trial. Suppose if we are conducting the 100-gram scale of laboratory trial, then we may slightly go for 500 gram. Then what is the impact? Doing 5 times multiplication. And if we do nowadays in pharma, there are kg lab concept has come. So if we go for the kg lab trials, then we will come to know the change when you are going for a slightly higher scale. So what is the impact of this? Then rate control is step during the plant design. Design and construct the pilot plant, including provisions for the process development of environment. Today, environment is very, very vital throughout the globe. Cleaning and sanitizing the system. Packing and the waste handling, because waste handling will have to be the concept is from cradle to grave, because waste handling system, if you do not know, you must be hearing that zero discharge unit, like then you don't let out any waste which is generated either in terms of solid, liquid or gas. Including process economics makes the any corrections at pilot plant, if it happens, then at higher scale we don't end up with the any big disaster. What is the technology transfer? In pharmaceutical industry, technology transfer refers to the process that are needed for successful progress from drug discovery, the basis I'm talking about, and from the product development to the clinical trial. Clinical trials, you must be knowing like pharma students that clinical trials are most before developing or launching any product, and then the commercial scale. There are two types of technology transfer. One is vertical technology transfer and another is the horizontal. Vertical means what? A process is developed in the lab and then it is taken to the next level of scale up, like pilot plant and semi-commercial plant and the full scale. And horizontal means what? One product is produced at, let us say, at Ankleshwar, and it has to be taken at Thane in Mumbai. So same set of documents should be transferred with this similar kind of. Then all those studies will come during what kind of reactor we had, what kind of documentation we will have, what kind of skill we will be needing. So there are two types of technology transfer around the pharma industries. It enables the upgrade the drug quality planned during the research and development and the final product during manufacturing, as well as guarantee that stability of the product is transferred. According to WHO, transfer of technology is defined as a logical process that controls the transfer of any process together with the documentation and the professional expertise. It's not only in totality it will have to be transferred, because knowledge also will have to be transferred, not only process, because otherwise they will not know what to do next. So between the development, the manufacturing sides, on the both the sides.
ये अच्छी ऑटोमेटेड प्रोसेस है जो हमने तो ट्राई करे सर ओके okay.
See, there is a process flow diagram for the process development. See, once basic process is ready at the research and development scale, then a group of people sits together and they go for the next. Then they go for the technology receiving side. Then it is scale up. Then exhibition of the that means demonstration of the batch. Then those batch which product is produced, it goes for stability study. Because if you don't have this proper stability study, product will ultimately fail. So that is a very important factor during the any product development. And then process validation, of course, for the consistency of the quality. Process development validation is must. And then once everything is established, full scale production is planned. Similar kind of technology transfer processes. The process are classified in three categories. We'll take one by one. That research phase, whereby a basic design of the process is done at the laboratory scale. Research from the factory production. Consistency between quality and specification, because we will have some specification in the beginning that this quality we want to produce via this development. So we will have to meet those with the consistency, not off and on. And assurance of the consistency through the development of manufacturing. Technology transfer from R&D to production, because if it is done through proper documentation and the skill sets, then at the end, regular production without any hassle, it will be produced regularly. Production phase, validation of the product, as we talked about the validation for the regularity and consistency. Feedback from the production and technology and the marketed product, because ultimately your customer will tell about the quality, whether is there any change or no. This is the diagram which we saw in the earlier. This is the cycle diagram, represents the technology transfer. You have to excuse me because there is no electricity in the home, by the way. So this is what is the laboratory scale unit, and the feasibility study is taken. Then scale up, then stability study also takes the important part. Then validation of the batches for, as we talked about, the consistency of the quality, and then it goes for the regular manufacturing. The steps involved in the technology transfer, the development of technology at the R&D scale. Then it goes for the further scale, as we talked about, some multifold of gram to certain multi-gram or close to kg scale. Then it goes for the 5 to 10 kg scale, and optimization of process at each stage with the consistency and validation with the batches demonstrated. Finally, technology transfer, because technology transfer is very vital between production, because they are the people who makes science into technology. Because if it is at R&D stage, it is science, but if it is converted into the technology, means pilot plant team, the chemical engineers will have to play a vital role for the production, to understand the heat transfer, to understand the dynamics of the stirrer design, the vapor phase load, the distillation, column size, all these things, what kind of centrifuge, what kind of dryer, all these things will be decided at pilot plant scale. Diagrammatic presentation is, as I was talking about, initially it will be a very small scale to understand the quality part first, that whether is it giving the consistent quality as we have defined earlier. Then it goes for further small scale up, like from 1 to 2 kg to 5 kg batch. So some volume will increase, some instruments and the reactors will be involved. Once it is established, it goes for the further scale of a pilot plant before any semi-commercial scale. Is like a 20 kg to 100 kg. So another engineering aspect will come into picture, whether chilling is proper, the timing is proper, the addition time which we have conducted during the nitration, during 1 hour we should add nitric acid. Whether it is in laboratory you can control, but at plant scale, semi-pilot plant scale, how will you do this? Whether this much of time if you give, then whether heat load is enough, that cooling chilling effect will take care of that heating to remove the nitration exothermicity. All these things will be studied at pilot scale. So when you go for further 200 to 1000 kg scale, there will be a remote chance of, if you have studied properly, there will be a remote chance of having failures. So proper pilot plant study will give you a full blown commercial process. What is the goal in the technology transfer? It takes all gathered knowledge and use the basis for the manufacturing control strategy, approach to a process qualification and ongoing continuous work. So once process established, it is then continuous development will come. Small thing will add up, and it will make a robust process. Some recovery part and some yield improvement, then second crop, and all these things put together will be studied at during the technology transfer. Because the thing you can study at laboratory. So when you go for higher scale, this will be very important, and it will end up in the economics also. The transition of the product process analytical method, because analytical method I will put it stress this, that analytical method, because it's not the normal quality control, it's analytical method development. Means a newer GC method will come, new HPLC method will come, newer analytical the parameters will come. So what kind of things we need to check and establish during the, and what are the impurities, there are the very vital stage during the technology transfer, to ensure the variability of the process parameters controlled and sufficient to face the commercial production environment, to verify the established during the development are still within the determined parameter during scale up. Now we'll talk about the steps involved in technology transfer. That is research phase. That is a very preliminary stage. So selection of excipients, process design, pre-formulation, that what kind of formula or what kind of mixing we want to do, and the improvement efficacy, that slowly after the initial laboratory process is formed, then some improvement will come. And then product stability, which is very vital, because at that stage itself we will have to start seeing the stability, whether is it stable for 6 months, then assay will start degrading, and then we will have to inform either management or the customer that this kind of things are happening. At a second stage, development phase will come. It involves the from R&D development, that is PDL lab. In this phase, technology transfer, TTD, technology transfer dossier. Dossier means you must be seeing, you must have learned and heard about dossier. It contains, we will call it as a Bible of any product. Cradle to grave, we will have the process, then the chemistry part of this one, what kind of reactions, what kind of the byproducts we are going to face. All this put together, including the economics part, the means costing part, what I am talking about, will be coming as a compact. The data is like a technology transfer document or dossier. And then at the next step, when it comes, it involves the validation of the study. That means consistency, scale-up parameters, and what kind of parameters are really vital for this one. Sometimes the temperature will be very vital. There will be a narrow range variation. Then there will be some timing. Sometimes it will be changed. Then sometimes the cooling effect, all sorts of things will be validated at this stage. And it parameters like flexibility, cost, dependability, how product is dependable, and innovation, and the product quality, which is vital for the in totality of the development. Documentation involved in the technology transfer. It is very vital. It is not just saying, because it will have to be documented. Whatever we do, like GMP, you must have heard that whatever you want to do, write down, do according to whatever you have written, and document this. So these documents are very important. So there will be no any biased opinion about this. What is written that we will have to follow. So there will be no personal opinion during the technology transfer. No gut feeling. The research and it will have to necessarily have the research development report, the detailed outcome of the laboratory trials, dosage form of the formula, then design and manufacturing method, then history of important processes and control. Then what is the important, what to do's and don'ts, I mean to say. Then quality profile of the manufactured batch, that sometimes batch must have failed of the initial part. Then what we did and what was the root cause of this failure. So such kind of thing will be very important document during this scale up. Specification and test method. That suppose melting point is given 79 to 82. So whether it starts early, that means some impurities are there. If it is not melting till end, then what kind of some salts are there. So such kind of very preliminary I am talking about, like HPLC or GC, some impurity profiling will be done. Some PEC column and the capillary column will define the impurity profiling. Such kind of thing will be important during the scale up, the specification and test methods, analytical development. Product specification and the assurance of the process safety. This is very important during safety, because at small scale you might not know that this kind of disaster it can happen. Like as I was mentioning about the heat, then exploration during the nitration, like hazardous reaction. So at scale up stage, this will all be known, and during those HAZOP studies are done, which we will be covering later on. HAZOP study are very important part during the scale up study, that what kind of hazards are involved in the process. Technology transfer documents are like molecule formulation, purpose, proposed market is the market master card, then the master packing card, critical process parameters, shipping when if you want to export, then what kind of it should have the labels to face the government or the agents regulatory requirement, procedures and finished product specification, then packing, then which is very vital, which we talked earlier, and the product development report in the totality. So that will put together will be covered as a technology transfer department documentation or dossier. This is in brief organization technology transfer, the research and development report, product specification file, the technology transfer plan, and technology transfer report. Then the verification of results during the means the consistency during the technology transfer, whether it has taken absolutely as desired or is there any loopholes. What will be the conclusion of technology transfer? The action of transfer of information and the technology for product realization. Bridge between donor side, that is R&D or knowledge center, and the receptor side means drug manufacturing side. That is the action required at the technology transfer. And the another counterpart is 3P. It is plan, process, and the personnel. Technology transfer is the process. Technology transfer on the both integral and the critical to the drug discovery of the development process and new medicinal products. The design of transfer between manufacturing is very frequently driven by the economics. As I was mentioning, that very important the economics, because if we does not meet the economical requirement, then there will be no sense of doing so. Key stages of process including the data collection, the data review, regulatory impact, and full-scale production batches, and the stability. What is set down for the requirement. And these are the all agencies. These are the all agencies involved during the technology transfer, means quality assurance, the manufacturing, quality control, the packing of the production, packing development, analytical development, the formulation. And very important is the for you people also engineering support, because chemical engineering and all mechanical, what kind of refrigeration will be required, what kind of reactors will be required, what kind of design, what kind of column, that is very important during the technology transfer. So engineering support, since it is put in the bold letters, that very important during the scale up. So engineers will have to play a vital role during the scale up. This is a diagram for the flow chart, like innovation. We will talk about the innovation from the as a starting point. Then it goes for the research and development, which is at a laboratory scale. Then it is for the assessment, whether how to take it forward. Then the investment will come, then what kind of plant design will be there. Then there will be some collaboration between different agencies, as we have seen earlier. And then finally it goes for the commercial production. These are the another form which we talked about, the research and development, analytical, quality control, and so on. Now this is important. Steps involved in the scale up. Define the product economics based on the projected market size. Means if it is a very small scale size, company may not be interested. That word. So a core group in the company, including different agencies like financial people and the product process people, engineering people, they will decide the economics of the process. Competitive selling price, the marketing people will come into picture. Then they provide the guidance whether for the allowable. Then this much is the target price or the cost we need to bear. Then only this will be viable. So this will be a guideline for a development team. Conduct laboratory studies and the scale up planning at the same time. So those studies will be started at the laboratory scale and the some scale up technology. Define the key rate controlling steps in the process. Conduct preliminary some larger trial than the laboratory, which I was telling, from maybe 1500 gram to 500 gram or 1000 gram of maybe 1 kg scale. So we will come to know whether what kind of impact it has in the terms of timing, temperature, all sorts of the recovery, all these things will come. And based on this data, rate controlling steps will be decided for the next plant design. Design and construct the pilot plant, including provisions for the scale and the environment control. As the environment control, I was telling, environment control is a very important factor during this. Cleaning and sanitization of the system, the decontamination will have to be taken into consideration. Packing of the material, packaging, that what kind of it, whether it will be packed in bag or drums or fiber drums and bottles, or what kind of packing will be required. Waste handling system, what kind of waste is generated and how to handle this. Solid waste, if it is generated, will be taking in the next slides. And meeting the regulatory, which is very vital. That means quality assurance will come into picture. That some government agencies will come into picture. That what kind of logo we will have, what kind of packing labels we will have. evaluate pilot plant result very critically, product and process, including process economics, to make any correction at that stage itself, to make organization decision not to proceed further or to go ahead with the plants full scale plant production. These are the different kind of various sectors like startup, what kind of importance we will have at what stage. So some will be only a research stage, then some will be the production stage, some will be the manufacturing, some will be in the distribution. So such different agencies will come into picture. What is the successful technology transfer? It depends upon the communication, which is very vital. What I have told and what you have understood. That's why read and understood is the criteria nowadays. So communication upon the open communication between the all team members, that we are on the same platform, we are on the same pitch. Direct communication between technical members, what I want to say in the technical terms, that the opposite party should be able to understand properly. Effective and timely communication between regulators, sending and receiving units, somebody at the receiving end, so they should understand properly that what kind of thing the counterpart is able to deliver. Technology transfer is not a one-way street. It's absolutely correct. It's not a single person job. It will have to be considered as a teamwork only. The sending units and the receiving units must equally be involved in the ये तो उसका काम है, that kind of thing approach will not work. Once they are on the same page, then they will sign each other that we have understood the process and now there will be no issue. Then it is in the betterment of the organization. The organization will surely want that both the parties should be agree on the, and as it is written like teamwork for all the time. It is not for the single time, one time job. This is again diagrammatic thing, what kind of people or the agencies involved during, then communication system, supply chain, project management, process knowledge coordination, then centralizing the development decision, organization structure, what kind of manpower and skill we want to involve, gap analysis, then if there is gap or the risk, what kind of thing we need to. So all put together is the technology transfer formation. Effective technology transfer is the critical to success of any pharmaceutical industry. You must be seeing in this one, different colors are involved. So who will do what, that role defined, and all these things are the very important during the scale up. So there will no blame game. Everybody will understand their role and then they will play according to. Now come to importance of technology. Very important, because since we are doing, it must be surely, it must be having some importance. So what is the importance? Technology transfer has number of importance in the pharma sector, which is elaborates the purpose as is it elucidates the necessary information to transfer of technology from R&D to actually manufacturing. It provides then opportunity to reduce cost. Once you go on the higher scale, there will be quite a few second crop, then recoveries, and all these things will end up in the economics, and cost is likely. I will give you at the end one example how we did one product from a gram level to commercialization. You please remind me at the end. I will take you through the actual process development or the technology transfer which I have come across as my own experience lifetime. I will explain you at the end. Okay. From the smooth manufacturing commercialization of the product, maintaining quality all throughout to achieve the standardized process, document all the evidence manufacturing process during the drug substance and the drug product. It provides an opportunity to reduce cost, which we have talked about. Factors involved in the technology transfer: the viable market, the political stability, because very important, because sometimes it is very important role play in the product development and the total economics of the process. Then economy and IPR. IPR, you must be knowing briefly that intellectual property rights, that is very vital for any company to produce any drug, whether somebody has holding the patent, and then we don't fall into any trap. Development priorities, company what they decide the priority that this should be taken in the first stage, or this should be taken in the second stage or the later stage. Then regulations like GMP and the quality assurance will come into picture. Skilled workers, that is important, because if you do not have the proper manpower, you will not be able to handle such very skilled and refined process in the proper manner, and then enforcement. Then all this management will come into picture. All this put together will be having a successful technology transfer. As we were talking about, scientists with the experience in the pilot plant operations as well as actual production are the most preferred, because then they will know. Some people will have the experience of the plant, that what is likely to happen when you go for the scale. So with they are the people who will need to understand, then intend to the formula is understand the perspective of the production people. Group should have the personnel with the engineering background knowledge for the scale up as a principles. As we were talking about, chemical engineering is very vital during the scale up and technology transfer. It should have a separate testing laboratory to avoid any contamination, because there will be exclusive requirement of the kind of units and instruments will be required during the physical and analytical testing like GC, HPLC and wet analysis. So such kind of segregated area will be required. Storage area will be very important, because to prevent any contamination during the scale up and the technology transfer, we will have an exclusive storage area. It should have two divided area like approved and unapproved active ingredients, all excipients. Then packing material will have to be stored separately. Then raw materials will have to be stored, because otherwise contamination may take place. Then if acids and gas evolution type of raw materials we will have separate with the fuming chamber or the exhaust fan requirement. Storage place is very important to maintain the quality all throughout in the organization. Why pilot plant study is required? What is scale up? A goal of scale up to identify and develop the process will successfully produce desired product when manufactured on the commercial scale. A pilot plant allows investigation of a product or process on the intermediate scale before large scale production, which involves the money and committed for the full scale production. Because when a company is intending to spend some crores of rupees, before that, if it is studied properly at a lower scale, so there are remote chances to face the failures during the full scale production. It is usually not possible to predict multi-scale. Suppose if you are doing some 100-gram scale and I have this much of yield and this much of recovery and such things, when you go for multi-fold gram, it's not likely to happen the same thing. When you go for further kg scale, if I'm adding my nitric acid or the acetic acid in the 10 minutes in the laboratory, but in the higher scale you may not be able to. So what kind of flexibility you should have in the process? So such studies are done at the pilot plant scale or the scale of technology transfer. Then only first pilot plant study and technology transfer will take place. First is pilot plant, followed by technology transfer. Because if you have pilot stable ready, process ready, then you will be able to take the further scale for the technology transfer. It is not possible to design a complex, large food processing plant from the laboratory data alone to go for the next degree of success. So some consideration of the pilot plant will be there, like kind and the size. Depends upon the goal, evaluating the product and the process, producing samples during the evaluation. Seed marketing means if you have done some higher scale studies, you may have to go to customer and tell him that this is what is our pilot sample. Can you test it and tell us the is there any performance issue during your next processes? Like then we will know the feedback from the customer, because they are the final authority to tell you what kind of quality they will need. Location, where it should be. If it is, it should be near R&D, to be near existing plant, and close lies in between the R&D and private plant. They are the technology transfer people and the team. Labor requirement and the cost, engineering staff, the skilled operations, maintenance staff, because as and when needed, you will need the engineering support. Pilot plant cost may exceed those usually plant operations cost, because that time there will be a number of trials we will be talking. So there will be some cost involved, but that cost will be incurred and recovered during the full scale production. A pilot plant study can be used for evaluating results obtained during the laboratory study, making the product and process corrections and improvements. Producing small quantity of the product, sensory, chemical, microbiological evaluation, then testing and furnishing the sample to the potential customer. There will need to be some shelf life, as I was studying about storage conditions and the stability, which are very vital. Determining the possible sellable byproducts. That means some salts will be coming and then some waste generation will come. Then you will have to go for multi-effect evaporator and so on. So there will be some treatment required then to reduce BOD, COD to make the stream going for the effluent. Providing data that can use in the making decision whether to be or not for the process for the full scale production. In the time of competitive, the case of the positive decisions will be making a decision for the company for the full scale production. These are some diagrammatical thing like what kind of thing we will have. To begin with, we should have the basis like R&D. Then it goes for pilot study. Once pilot study is done, then there will be some set of review taking place. Some documentation will take place. Then it will go for further scale up, and finally it goes for the larger. So these are the series we will have to pass through for any kind of large scale production as a prototype recovery, the manufacturing process, not the shortcut I'm talking about. Then pilot plant and scale up means what? Pilot plant, it will be intermediate batch size. Then manufacturing drug product by a procedure which is fully representative of the simulatory, and then it goes for the further next pilot plant scale, like it is shown in the diagram. Safety, which I had talked about, the HAZOP study, which I was talking, the operable hazards and the operational part of allowance, what kind of safety we need to take. So sometimes powder safety will come, some liquid, some gas emission, then equipment safety, all put together will be the process safety. When power failure comes, what kind of safety we should have, and all these things are very, very important, because if you do not have the process safety in place during pilot study, you will not be able to predict a full scale production plant that what kind of hazard we are envisaged for the further scale, and all of a sudden there could be a big blunder during manufacturing. So at this stage itself, we will have to take care, and you must be seeing there's a lot of hazards happening in the industries during full scale production if they are not taken care properly. Effluent reduction and the treatability. So effluent is going to be generated, as we know, it is inevitable. But if it is generated, how to handle those? So as we discussed earlier, some salts or byproduct will be generated. So we need to recovery. Basically, slogan is wealth from the West. What wealth we can generate from the West? Because if you have some byproducts, and if you can convert, the certain economics is going to end up in your product economics. Some liquid effluent will be generated, then water could be recycled in some processes. MEV, you must have heard about multi-effect evaporator. Some water recovery will come, and the volume will be reduced drastically, and then the sludge which is generated could be used for the landfilling. Then RO means reverse osmosis, all kind of liquid handling effluent is there, and some gas emission will have to be scrubbed properly into the system like water and caustic, or if it is acidic in nature. So those kind of things will be useful during this scale-up study. Some training will be required. Training all put together, as I have shown in the diagram, like GMP compliance, which is very vital as a regulatory part. Safety and the environment responsibilities, then compliance of SOP. SOP means standard operating procedure. There will have to be a standard operating procedure. Instructions will be given. You add this, you stir like this, you raise this temperature, you filter it, distill it, recovery of this, this much of temperature, this much of it. All kind of this compliance of standard operating procedure, technical skill and knowledge, which is useful to handle the plant. All put together will be needing some training. When you have training, you should have the audits also. So we are going to pass through the quality assurance, the audit of the pilot plant, because if you don't audit, then there will be no checks what kind of processes we are handling. Audit and approval of the components of the supplier, then review what kind of the processes which you are doing, sampling and releasing the raw material. Put together, we will have a quality assurance in the place. Then definitely validation, we can't forget, validation is very important during the scale up. What is the need of scale up? A well-defined process, a perfect product in the laboratory and a pilot. But it may fail in further scale in the quality assurance. So we may have to again sit together that what went wrong. What went wrong analysis is the part of, you must have heard about the total quality management, that is TQM. So put together, again refine the process, go for the further scale because of the process and scale up. What must have happened so our product is not meeting the quality assurance part? Then going for further, after refining all these things, a full scale up process is ready for the next. There are some operational aspect and the agencies involved, as it is very explanatory, self-explanatory in this, that validation, training, engineering support, maintenance, and then material control, then inventory part, and the process manufacturing activity. Put together are the operational aspect of the any process. Validation we have talked much about. Then IQ, OQ, is a buzzword for the pharma industries. That means installation qualification, operational qualification, and performance. If it is giving the desired performance, then you are passing through the performance qualification. Put together is the GMP requirement for any process. And the engineering support, which is vital, which we have talked about. You people are chemical engineering students, so you must be knowing and you must know your value that during scale up, any chemical engineers are going to play a very vital role. So first of all, the construction of any facility, the coordination and schedule, then validation of facility, whether those facilities are as per our standards, and designing any facility. Such contribution is going to come through the engineering support and chemical engineer team. Typical model for any technology transfer with the steps broken down in small things. First of all, we will do the pre-transfer. Before any transferring, we will have some pre-transfer, some activity that organization involves. They determined that the product and process is valuable enough for the ready to transfer. A transfer team is created, consists of receiving and sending units. So there will be a seamless technology transfer. The organization communicate the sharing information during the time and added for the project management tools. Knowledge of transfer, some documentation, some actual skill, the observations, they are very vital for the process technology transfer. So information about material, method, process, the parameters, training, equipments, and more importantly, are prepared as a supportive documents during the process transfer. Then actual process transfer planning, the risk and management are done, as we talked about the risk management in terms of in totality, like the safety and the environment. There will be equipment, process systems. A transfer plan is drawn, identified with the clear-cut guideline of the responsibility, who will do what and at what time it is going to take. It cannot be endless. So there will have to be what resources we are going to spare for this. Typical model for the, again, coming to the continuity of this, the transfer of execution and verification. The plan gets executed with the numerous verifications activity, such as small scale, full, and it takes to confirm whether the transfer is done successfully. Data is collected to close down the activity and provide the additional useful information for the sending units. So any kind of learning during the scale up, that will be noted down and kept for the further future learning. And post transfer, once it is done, then some review will come. Lessons are learned during the sharing the technology transfer for the process and the verification, which is continuously done on the development, on the ongoing process control. Each transfer is unique and required. So different process will need different kind of technologies and these skills. Continuous knowledge transfer, which is very explained in the terms of diagrammatic, highly interpreted the regulations, then intermediate transfer, then the reactive inspection of the review of the parties. These are the technology, and these are the transfer takes place in the predefined. Knowledge transfer, which is very important. Knowledge is the brain is like a bucket. So that knowledge is passing through all these things, and knowledge base is greatly experienced here. Technology transfer, how and when? There are some guidelines for the technology transfer. Present the standardized process, recommended minimal based in the documentation support for the technology transfer process, define key terms and the consistency interpretation, and facilitate timely and cost-effective technology transfer. There cannot be endless process. Consider the regional requirement like United States, Europe, Asia, Japan, and all these things as a regulatory part. Encompass the research, development, analytical process, quality, guide and focus on the levels, qualities, type of information, enables to capture and sparing the right knowledge. So there has to be right knowledge in the place. Then there will be remote chance of failure further on the full scale production in the benefit of company economics. What constitutes the successful technology transfer? Successful criteria from of a definition of technology transfer means ability to receiving unit to perform a transfer technology to a satisfaction level, all parties and any call or applicable for the all regulatory bodies. Technology transfer can be considered successful only when receiving unit can routinely produce that product and transfer the product, process, method against predefined set of specification and agreed during the transfer sending units, and then a seamless process will be created. Success of criteria means process parameters and control mechanism, the material supply, the analytical method, the health, safety, EHS compliance, and the compliance of all the committed requirement in the different forms. If it is not done properly, then what can happen? Process validation may be unsuccessful, delay in the regulatory approval and the product launch. So you will have the delay and company will face the setback. Flow design may result into high rate of batch rejection, and then reproducing of the batches will be done. Then costly schedule revision. Then this is going to have the market impact. Analytical method cannot support the production because you don't have the proper quality in place. Then incomplete documentation, and the product does not perform as intended. What we have defined, it is not meeting the requirement. If it has to done, what should be there? It must be understood and managed by all stakeholders. Stakeholders will have to be decided and role will have to be clarified as it is shown in the picture, that if in totality, if it is lifted up, then only you can have the successful technology transfer. GMP consideration. This is vital during, because since we are talking about the pharma industry, GMP, as I was talking about, is not a newer word now. In earlier days it was, but now CGMP you must have heard about the current GMP method. GMP means, as briefly, if you have to tell or narrate in the define, that document what you want to do according to the whatever you have written, and document what you have actually done. So equipment qualification will come, as I was showing in the diagram. Process validation will come. This is required for the validation, and the regulatory schedule of the preventive maintenance to have the failure for the long-term maintenance. Regulatory process and review for the revalidation. Relevant process written standard operating procedures. The use of competent technical qualified personnel. The adequate revision for the training requirement, a well-defined technology transfer system, that is very important, which we are talking, must have talked about last 1 hour. Validation of cleaning and procedure, because if you don't have cleaning procedure in place, there will be a lot of contamination may come, and then you will have a quality issue at the end. And orderly arrangement of the equipment so that it is easy for the raw material, the material flow, and the prevent the, as I was talking about, the cross contamination. So some impurities are now in the ppm level can affect your quality. So those kind of things could be avoided. If you pass through this, I'm sure we are going to have the smooth technology transfer in this. Gentlemen, we are coming to an end of this session. So I thank you very much. I take an opportunity for management of Parul Institute University for providing an opportunity to meet such a audience, the knowledgeable team members, exclusively and especially to Prabha Modi for contacting me and convincing me for the kind of subject we have chosen. And I was happy to deliver this. If I have any questions, you can jot down and pass on to Prabha Modi for any kind of discussion. Since time is permitting, I will take you through my own life experience of the scale up. During my earlier organization, when I was at Pune, I will not name the organization to have the secrecy, but one product has come for the development in the R&D laboratory as a conceptual thing from one multinational company from US or Germany. So that product name was given. So right from literature search, what kind of activity we have to pass through, that will be very useful information as my lifetime experience for you people to understand, being an upcoming entrepreneur. So literature search will have to be done. So all sorts of patents and those kind of things will come. Though they had shared their basic process with us. So that was the five-step process. I will take you to one without naming the process. So first thing was methylation. So we started with the different kind of methylating agent. So we selected the dimethyl sulfate in the presence of caustic. So it will form the sodium salt, and you get the methyl ester. Then you will have bromination. So if you have benzene ring, there will be a lot of multiple bromination will take place. So a restriction at four position will be very vital. So we finally found that which is the correct way to get the 4-bromo derivative of that molecule. So we did that to have the purity. We started distilling those things also. Then it was going for the further scale of condensation between one this, acetylate derivative at very highest temperature, and then condensation takes place, and then so all these studies put together. Then we had to pass through all these studies, and if you find it that if we have some quality issue, then again that reworking will come. We had a lot of cost reduction. We started with more than 1,000 rupees a kg, while selling price was about 500 rupees only. So, but management has told us that you please go ahead, and we want to produce a large scale product for the testing for the required for the customer. So we did that, and when we started refining our process, our cost of production came to 400 rupees, and we had a 5 years buyback program for that customer with the all done, and there was only 2.5 erected the equipment very smoothly for 500 tons per annum. That was our beauty of the process development. So, gentlemen, you people only can make the difference, and no other than you people are going to make that kind of thing. So, I take an opportunity to thank you all for having your patience and.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, sir. It was very
Okay.
Thank you, sir. It was very wonderful and very informative session, and really, you enlighten us like how the science background students do research, then go for pilot, then for scale up, then for how the technology is transferred. Like it was really very useful session for all of us. Sir, some one student has given a question: how to optimize our cost of product, cost of installing of plant, yeah, cost of utilities, including steam and energy by technology transfer.
Okay. You will have to excuse me first of all, because I'm not a chemical engineer. I'm a experienced chemist, so I will take you through this. I've handled a lot many technologies, but the kind of thing which we, as I was giving you the example of the process development at the end, that after having 5 steps of the higher temperature and the distillation, all sorts of things, when on the smaller scale, we did not find the process was economical. As I was mentioning, that it is not the process we should be following at the 1,000 rupees a kg versus 500 rupees selling. But when we started reviewing the process, when we started knowing that this kind of thing we need to do, and what kind of heat load those things will be noted down, and on the paper itself, that what kind of heat we need to, what kind of the cooling we need to, what kind of distillation we need to. Those parameters will be very useful during scale up and the technology and cost adding, because some of the thing when you don't need, if you have the 1,000 liter reactor, and if you are operating at 500, so half of the void volume will take your utilities also, and it is not going to turn the, so those kind of small things, when that's why I was stressing about chemical engineers can help and make the difference in technology transfer, because they are the people bridge between the chemist and the manufacturing sites.
Okay, okay. थैंक यू सर. कैन यू जस्ट स्टॉप शेयरिंग? आप वो स्टॉप शेयरिंग पे क्लिक कीजिए. फिर नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन. या ओके सर, अनदर क्वेश्चन इज फ्रॉम Arya Nitesh. How to design pilot plant, simulation of plant, and development and modification of production plant? Like how technology transfer can help?
Okay, interesting. Because it will be very useful question, and I appreciate.
For all the chemical engineers.
When we have a pilot plant, we cannot have for a particular product. We should have a multi-purpose plant. It should be interchangeable, because plant will have to be done for exclusive one product. But when we have a pilot plant, it should have multi-purpose plant, because today we have one process for scale up. Then once it goes phase out after 2-3 months, some another product will come. So if we have done exclusively for those products, we cannot have this. So we should have a multi-purpose plant, like stainless steel reactor or glass line reactor with this much of stirrer, anchor stirrer, propeller stirrer, then this much of dryer, this much of centrifuge. So its pilot plant should be able to cover all processes put together. Then it should have cooling system, it should have heating system. Some exclusive, of course, will come based on the process. But it cannot be have this only for the any single product. If it is giving that way, then we should have the multi-purpose plant to take care of all different types of process in the benefit of the organism.
Okay.
And for the laboratory scale process, one can have a meeting with the pilot plant and the technology transfer group that this process needs the 80-degree temperature, and this much needs the 500 vacuum, like 10 vacuum. So such kind of thing, exchanging this one, they will suggest that this equipment we will be using, this dryer will be, because sometimes tray dryer may not be used. Sometimes rotocone vacuum tray dryer will have to be used, or the recovery will have to be done. Such thing will be discussed and transferred during the technology transfer.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, sir. One